for the next one. Chapter 121. Now, those who have their Kitzur Shulchan Aruch in a few volumes, or more than one volume, may need to quickly change books. But chapter 121. So it's the laws of a public fast day, and it's a good introduction to the next few chapters, which speak about a period of time in the Jewish calendar called the 3 weeks. Right? It's called the 3 weeks, and coincidentally, it lasts for 3 weeks. Well, actually, 3 weeks and 1 day, and part of those 3 weeks is a period of time called the 9 days, which coincidentally lasts for 9 days, and it's a time in the Jewish calendar where, I'm not going to say it's a sad time per se, but it's a less happy time. When Purim comes, the month of Adar, it says, "Mishnichnas Adar marbem b'simcha." When the month of Adar begins, we have to increase in happiness. And maybe someone can hear my grandson in the background. He wants to join the shir. He's here too. So, when Adar begins, we increase in joy, which, by the way, doesn't mean we start being joyous, we increase. So we have to be happy to start with, right? A Jew always has to be full of joy. You can only serve Hashem with joy. And so tongue in cheek, and I may have shared this before, the question was asked seriously. The students asked the famous Mashpia, about 100 years ago, how do you do that? How do every day you increase in joy? So he tongue-in-cheek answers them. This is not the real answer. It's just what he said, told them as tongue-in-cheek was, the first day of Adar, you have 1 l'chaim. The second day of Adar, you have 2 l'chaims, and so on and so forth, which is become really interesting in a Jewish leap year, where we have 60 days of Adar. Right? But anyway, so they said to him, okay, so they played along. It also says, Mishnichnas Av, when Av begins, Ma'atim b'simcha, we decrease in simcha. Right, these 9 days leading up to Tisha B'Av. And again, I want to point out, it doesn't say you become depressed, and it says you lessen your simcha, you lessen your joy. We have less. We still have to serve Hashem with happiness. So it says, then you start the month with 30 l'chaims. Second day you have 29, right? So, and again, please don't try that at home. Those programs that say do not try this at home, we don't recommend this. But I just mentioned it, this idea that yes, we are sad, particularly on Tisha B'Av itself, but it's not depression. Right? There's 2 types, just give an introduction, there's 2 types of sadness. You can have a person who realizes they missed out on something. They're sad about it. And this then motivates them, you know what? If I don't want to miss out again, I have to change something. Because if we just keep doing the same thing, we can't expect different results. So one type of sadness / disappointment leads to positive change. That's what the 9 days and Tisha B'Av is about. A sadness of depression, again, I'm not talking about clinical depression that people need help with. You can't just say to someone, snap out of it. That's actually just makes people feel worse. It makes it worse because you're implying they should have control over things which at the moment they don't have control. But so I'm not talking about a clinical depression. I'm talking about just, let's say, a regular depression, if that's the right way to word it. When a person is, right, depression generally is negative. In other words, it paralyzes the person. The person is now withdraws, and they don't have energy to make change. So there's 2 types of sadness. There's a sadness that leads to wanting to make something different, and that's a positive sadness, and that's something that we have a place for it in Judaism. It doesn't mean it's what we do all day, every day, but there's a place for it. and these 9 days that we're going to, when we get up to there, we'll see that's the place, or one of the places. But a type of sadness that paralyzes us, that stops us from doing things, then that's no good. We have to snap out of it, or if it's the again, we're talking about not a clinical depression. The person is able to be on their own to get out of it. No, and but someone is in a situation when they need help, and again, no one should ever be ashamed to go for help. It's ironic. No one feels embarrassed to go to a doctor for a broken leg or various things. But sometimes when it's mental health or emotional health, people feel embarrassed, and we shouldn't be. Right? It's our health and our well-being, and we need to be. If we want to be the best Jew that we can be, want to be the most spiritual, most connected to Hashem, we have to be physically, emotionally, and mentally the top of our game. So that's all right. So Siman Kuf Chaf Aleph, chapter 121. Hilchos Tainus Sibur, the laws of a public fast day. We'll see if we can squeeze in the first one in our almost 2 minutes. Aleph, number 1. Mitzvah aseh midivrei neviim l'sanlis b'yom she'oru choros l'avosenu. There's a mitzvah that was introduced by the prophets to fast on days that tragedies happen to the Jewish people. Now, v'tachlis hatainus he ve'la'oires l'vavis l'vakeach al darkei tshuva. The purpose of the fast is to arouse our hearts that it should put us in a frame of mind that we're going to change ourselves. It reminds us, in other words, let's use the Beis Hamikdash being destroyed as an example. Now, why did such a tragedy happen? We, meaning the Jewish people, we let ourselves down. We made errors. And it helps us remember the errors, and so we can change it. And the errors, we're not going to have a chance. We'll start the beginning of number 1 again next week, God willing. But we're still making the same errors, because if we were in a situation where we had corrected everything and we deserved the Beis Hamikdash, then it would be here. Which means, unfortunately, we haven't yet corrected, at least haven't corrected all the errors, maybe some of them. So on a certain level, we don't yet deserve it, which would mean that if it existed until now, it might be destroyed today because of our failings. And so the purpose of the fast is to put us in the right frame of mind that we can examine this. And so we just had a question. We need to have a valid excuse not to make Havdalah. If you didn't, so you have till Tuesday. But otherwise, the person shouldn't push it off. So anyway, we'll start again next week, God willing. And who knows? Maybe by next week we'll have the Beis Hamikdash. We'll have fixed everything and it'll be built.
Amen.
Zaygazen, Rabbi. Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Stay safe,
Thank you,
everybody.
Rabbi.
You're welcome. And we're gonna
Zoom should still be
pray for
working.
everyone at the Kaisel, at the Western Wall.
Rebbe, regardless of where you are, Zoom should still be working.
Correct.
Okay, good. Thank
I'm in
you.
Israel now.
Thank you.
Good job.
Yerushalayim.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Uh,
You know what, that is our home number, but it's not allowed.